What's up, guys? Eric Codes here. So today, I'm going to talk about how things might be changing. I might be changing the type of dev I am. I guess let's unpack that, and we'll kind of go through it. So the long story short, before we get into it, so see if you're interested or not, is I think I'm going to be switching my main focus from PHP to Ruby and Ruby on Rails. And there's a couple reasons for that, and we'll get into it, but let's unpack why would I do that. I love PHP, right? Yeah, I do, absolutely. But again, if you've watched this channel before, you know my background. I come from hospitality originally. Spent 17 years there, I had a whole career pretty much. And then in my early mid-30s, 34, I made the switch to programming. Web development. I started HTML, CSS, JavaScript, went to a boot camp, picked up PHP in there somewhere, then VBA and Access development. A year later, full-time PHP developer, and I'm a mid-level PHP developer right now, and I might be switching to Ruby, and there's, like I said, several reasons for that. First of which is I am the type of person, and this is why programming is a great career for me. I am the type of person where I easily get bored of the same thing. When I don't find something challenging anymore, I get bored. And so that's kind of why I switched to programming, because after spending 17 years of doing what I did, I was an expert at it and I was bored out of my mind, you know? So PHP, I love it. It's great. But I'm kind of getting bored with it, with what I'm doing with it. And I want something a little fresher. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm going to stop using it, right? My business is WordPress development pretty much, you know, and custom PHP development. So it's not like I'm going to not do it. Although what I'm going to do is any new projects moving forward, like personal projects or anywhere where I can use it, I'm going to switch and start doing Ruby on Rails. Now, I, again, like PHP, don't want to quit that, but I do want to learn something new. And I've been picking and taking little snippets here and there of Ruby development, again, specifically Ruby on Rails, and I really like the language. I really like the developer experience on it, you know? Now, I've been doing it all on my Mac. My main work machine is a Windows machine. So we'll see how Ruby development goes on that. But, you know, it should be pretty simple. I think there's, you know, Windows has a Linux subsystem, which you use that and, you know, basically run in a Linux environment, so it shouldn't be a problem at all. So I definitely have to see how that goes. But my son's about 6 months old and he's still in our house, or it's not still in our house, he's still in our room. And my room is also where my office is. So late night, I've been working on the Mac and on projects and stuff, working on the Mac, which is like a 2015 MacBook, which I can't even put the latest operating system on it, and I need to upgrade somewhere, but yeah, so I think I'm going to make the switch to Ruby development. Now, why Ruby on Rails? Well, I've already told you, number one, I find the Ruby programming language attractive. I find it interesting. I like the syntax. It makes a lot of sense. Like just last night I was playing around with it a little bit, and there was God, what was it? It was with index. It was looping over something, or times, or and the one function is called one thing to loop over everything, and the other thing is with it, the same name with index. Makes total sense, right? Like if I want the index of the thing I'm looping over, each with index, that's what I think it is. So dot each is the loop, it's like a for each loop in PHP. But in a for each loop, you, the index, you would say, key, and then you would map it with the equal signs and the greater than symbol. And then whatever, say key and then your value. Whereas with Ruby, you would say dot each with key, and that'll give you access to the index. So the second parameter would be the index. Anyways, the syntax is really nice. It looks very clean. It makes a lot of sense. And I like it. Sometimes you get into something and you're like, oh, I like this. Like I remember I did a video on Python just the other day, and I did not like Python. I don't like the syntax. I don't like writing it. I find it just not my thing, my cup of tea, and that's fine. Some people do, not for me. So again, I get into Ruby and I just kind of really like it. Second thing is, I said this a few months back, but man, I really want to get into the Shopify world. Now I know Shopify has its own language. I didn't even research what it is. I want to say it's called Liquid or something like that, where you can make themes and stuff. So that's one thing. Obviously I'll have to pick up on that a little bit for themes. But also the plugins and stuff are written in straight up Ruby. So, and Ruby on Rails. So really for EJ web design, I think getting involved in Shopify is a really good thing. Because again, honestly, I find WooCommerce kind of clunky and it's kind of a pain in the ass. It's a lot of great things, and like I said, for what it is, you get a lot. But I think a Shopify store is a lot better, more robust, more features. Whereas WooCommerce is kind of the you understand if you know what I was talking. If you're a WooCommerce dev, you probably feel the same way. I had to develop in WooCommerce, but I probably feel the same way. It's kind of gimmicky and it's kind of, I don't know, I feel like there's nickel and diming in it. Payments and all these different things. I don't know. I feel like it's kind of, it is what it is. So again, I really like the language. I want to get Shopify when I add that to my business. Then I also do Shopify along with WordPress and WooCommerce. So I like it. It's a challenge. I'm not bored. Something to learn, something to grow. And the third reason, I think this might be the most important reason, or equally important, I should say, maybe, is because in my area, I just seem like I can find a lot more high-paying Ruby on Rails developer jobs, right? So if I wanted to leave my company right now, I'd have to find, a mid-level PHP developer, because I doubt I'm going to get a senior role. I mean, I suppose I could skill-wise, but, on an application, I don't know if they're going to see, that's enough experience. I don't know. Sorry, there was a fly on my hand. So I don't know if I'll get a senior role. Plus, a lot of those roles are in person. Maybe they're hybrid one day a week. But where I live, it's very rural. We're about 2.5 hours away from New York City. So there's jobs there, but I can't make a 2.5 hour commute, or with traffic 3, maybe more. There's not even a bus. I guess there's a bus that I could take, but there's a bus that comes to our town, but there's not a train. I'd have to drive 45 minutes to an hour to a train to get the train to the city. It doesn't make sense. Whereas with Ruby, seems there's a lot more flexibility on the remote work. There's a lot more remote Ruby work. Seems like even close to me, there's a lot more hybrid work where it's a little more reasonable. Like, okay, 2 days in office, the rest remote or completely remote. And so, there comes a point as a developer where you have to say, all right, are we going to move? I have 4 kids, 2 of which are in school. They have their friends, they have their lives, And so if we were to move, it's a big life change for them, especially where we live, our house, we have like 3 acres of land and we have a whole bunch of space, big house, it's about 3,400 square feet, and it's pretty affordable. Whereas, I can't say dollar for dollar, my money's going to go the same way somewhere else. If nothing else, even if I got a significant raise, it might not put us in a better spot financially because, if the house is $750,000, $750,000, where I have to live for the job, I'd have to make double what I make now. So a lot plays into that. But when you look at a Ruby developer, again, a lot more of them are remote. A lot of them are higher salaries, where for a PHP developer, man, you even see some senior level that are getting offered like $30, $35 an hour, and it's not gonna cut it, man. I don't know what that work is, but $35 an hour is not going to support my family. I need more than that. For EJ web design, I charge $65 an hour alone, so yeah, could I jump into just doing EJ web design, staying PHP and all the stuff that I'm doing? Yeah, sure. But there's a lot of risk with that. It's feast and famine when you start a business, because although one month I might have, a $20,000 client come in, I could go the next 2 or 3 months, with no new work. And then it's up to me to make sure that I'm getting work. And work is not guaranteed. You don't know what the economy is going to do. You don't know what interest rates are going to do. Yes, people always need web development. But it doesn't mean that, if something happens externally that you can't control. And the same thing could be said about having a job. But having a job, company I work for is a big company, it can weather storms a little bit better. When it's just me in my business, a storm comes, it's going to be real hard to weather it, especially if, the business is just making enough money to get by. So I don't want to take that risk. I like having the business as the extra, right? Yes, it's nice to have it, but I don't depend on it as my money, my main income. Right, my main income comes from my job, and then EJ web design is kind of all the gravy, right? Trip money, money to go out, extra money when something goes wrong, right? A rainy day fund. That's all what EJ Web is doing. And yes, it could be a full-time thing, but I have 4 kids that I can't take that risk until it's more established. If it was so established that I have to hire somebody, well, if I'm looking at hiring somebody at some point, then we're talking more along the lines of, okay, it can sustain itself. But anyway, that's a little bit of a tangent, but end of the day, Ruby dev is making more money than a PHP dev. Just, plain and simple. It seems like, again, in my area, you go on Indeed or ZipRecruiter or look for job postings, whatever it might be, you're you're definitely finding more. I'm finding more Ruby work that pays better than PHP. You know, plain and simple. So, anyways, that's kind of my summation of it, right? I think that I also don't think AI is going to be as detrimental. I think PHP is pretty safe from AI too. JavaScript devs out there, if you're solely JavaScript, you're going to want to make sure you're shoring up your back-end knowledge because, man, front end is pretty, especially junior level. I mean, it's gonna be tough tomatoes for a while. I think, again, I did a video on AI. I think AI's bubble is bursting. So, but I think it's also going to be part of the workflow, and it's going to make us more efficient. And I think for a little bit there, until things normalize, junior dev work's gonna be harder to find. But anyways, summing it all up, number one, Ruby is one of those languages I just like it. It's just cool, and I want to learn it, and I always like to challenge myself. Number two, for my business, I think adding Shopify, custom Shopify development to my business is going to help me a lot. Number three, just jobs. There seems to be more jobs in my area, especially if I don't want to move. There's just better opportunities in the Ruby world right now than there are the PHP world. And that's all there is to it. It's not like I don't like PHP or anything like that. It's just, I'm trying to expand my knowledge, grow both my knowledge, my abilities, and financially, because I want to set up my wife and I for a good future, a good retirement, and my kids as well. So I think jumping into some Ruby development here is a good thing for me. So from now on, any project I'm going to make on the side, it's going to be Ruby on Rails. I've been looking at it, and to be honest with you, it makes a lot of sense to me. I mean, it makes more sense to me than even Laravel does, and they're very, very close. If you've done Laravel, you'd easily jump into Ruby on Rails. Because the language, like I said, is pretty developer friendly, and you can learn it pretty quick. I don't have the muscle memory. Like you see, I struggle with remembering what the names of things are. But again, very green in working with it. It'll stick if it's sticking in my mind already after working with it only a few times, it'll stick long term when I'm using it more often. But I find for anybody out there who's trying to learn how to learn a new language or learn something new, this is the way to do it. You build projects, like I have enough programming knowledge where, like I said, I can jump into Python and I can write some scripts in Python. I can write PHP, I can write JavaScript, I can write Ruby, I can write C#, right? So I have enough knowledge that when you jump in, you can pretty much understand any programming language because, programming concepts are the same across language most of the time. What's different is the syntax, and I find the Ruby syntax very easy. So if you come from the Laravel world, Ruby on Rails is going to be cake. I think Ruby on Rails is even easier, to be honest with you, because working with the database, I think, is a little easier in Ruby on Rails than it is with Laravel. Like Laravel has Eloquent, which is like its own thing, and it has like a lot of ways to do the same thing. And it's like, man, just let me use SQL, which you can. But again, I just really like in Ruby, and I have a great idea for a project I'm going to do. It's going to, really push the boundaries of what Ruby on Rails can do. And we'll see how it turns out. And I'll get it live, and at some point I'll share that link with you guys and let you play along with it, see what you can build in Ruby on Rails. So, but anyways, that's my take today. That's what I'm looking forward to. Again, it's Eric Codes. Leave a comment down if you want me to do a video on something, or if you have any questions. All right, take it easy.